So I am doing this series before I turn 30 where I relive all of the years in my 20s and kind of reflect back. Today, I'm going to relive my 21st year. This was actually a major year. Again, like as I started reflecting back on what had happened that year, it was kind of like my 20th year is the foundation of a lot of key things. So the things that I did in this year were the beginnings to a lot of what I've continued to do for the rest of my life for the next 9 years following that 21st one. So these videos are a lot for myself to kind of like look back on and reflect and see kind of like what has happened in my life and to prepare myself to enter the next decade and like look at the successes and my lessons learned. And so I am excited to share that with you if you're interested to know more. But I'm also happy just to be doing these videos for myself and for my own memory and for my own kind of like vault of video collection. So my 21st year was pretty epic because this year I actually lived all around the world. So I turned 21 in Palestine. I was studying abroad in Tel Aviv, but I spent my 21st birthday in Nablus, and then I went to Jerusalem, and then I went back to Tel Aviv and had a big party there. From September to December, I was living in Tel Aviv, studying, doing kind of like the big college life kind of stuff. Then I spent that winter in Europe. And I visited all of my family in Germany. I visited my best friend for the first time in Norway. And then I also went to the UK for my first time and like saw London and really enjoyed that. And I spent New Year's Eve that year in Amsterdam with my boarding school roommate. And that was another like epic time. Just this like great Euro trip. It was only my third time in Europe, and it was like my second time doing like a proper like Euro trip where I go and see a lot of different places. So that was really fun. Then I moved to Abu Dhabi, and January 1st, 2012, this was the first time that I actually lived in Abu Dhabi. So I had visited September before for one day to the UAE, Sharjah, Dubai, but then I had my full semester in Abu Dhabi, the first time that I was properly living here. And I always look back on that semester and actually think it was like the best time in my life, academically, professionally, personally. It was just a great time. Like I felt like I was working very hard, achieving all of my goals, and I was being appreciated, respected, and like successful through them all, which was a really, really, great feeling. And that summer then I moved to India. I spent 2 months there doing an internship in Mumbai, which was crazy, again, being 21 years old, living in this crazy huge city, a completely different culture to anything that I had ever known. And then I moved from Mumbai to Venezuela, and we did the second project of Trail of Seeds, the first being the summer before in Tanzania. And this project was totally different because we got a lot more funding. We brought a whole team. We had 7 people. So myself and Shannon, our friend Kelsey, who you guys know from the other videos, but then also 4 other people who joined us, all of which were United World College graduates. And we had this epic time in Venezuela between Venezuela and Brazil. We were right on the border in Santa Elena de Uairan. And then we were working with the indigenous people, the Wapixana in Brazil and the Pimon in Venezuela. And we did again our Trail of Seeds culturally inclusive development workshops. We did film workshop, dance workshop, we did identity workshops. It was amazing, and we ended up giving grants for local agriculture equipment, for local costumes for parade, and we funded the publishing of a book in the traditional Pimon language that was going to be used in schools in the village and the surrounding areas. So that was pretty epic, being in Venezuela. And then, right before my birthday, I moved back to New York for my final semester, and I got to live with all of my friends from Abu Dhabi. And so I remember I got to New York probably the day before my birthday, and I had a birthday dinner with just 3 of my close friends, and that was really amazing. So that's chronologically what happened. I want to spend a couple minutes looking back on some of the travel that I did in between there as well. So when I was studying abroad in Israel, in Tel Aviv, I also traveled to Hungary and to Latvia. I went with a buddy of mine to a Britney Spears concert, which was really exciting. We were at boarding school. We love Britney. We still love Britney, and we went to Hungary for a concert for her. It was also good to see my buddy. Then I also went for like our fall break or maybe Yom Kippur or some holiday. We went to Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. And those of you who've seen all my videos know I love Central Asia, and this was my first time in that part of the world. And so being in this new culture, beautiful landscapes, that was epic. I went with two of my friends from who I was studying abroad with in Tel Aviv. And then when I did all the travel in Europe, when I was studying abroad in UAE, I did 3 major trips, 2 for school and 1 for personal. One, I went to Oman and did like a research trip there into the traditional irrigation phylage system with a class of mine, an anthropology class. I also went to Jordan and I did this run where we ran from the Dead Sea to the Red Sea, a team of 180 kilometers. That was like one of the craziest physical things I'd ever done. It was also really fun. We said, you can accomplish anything if you keep a smile, because it was so hard to run, every hour for 18 hours and like with everybody. But we accomplished it and we got it done. And then the third trip was for my spring break that year. I went to Thailand with my best friend Terrence. He was studying abroad in Tokyo. I was in Abu Dhabi, so we like kind of met in the middle in a way. And on the way back, I spent 3 days in Sri Lanka. I went to Kandy, saw one of my favorite sites that I've talked about before, Sirigya, the like mountain rock that has like the temple and the archaeological site on the top, which was amazing. Then when I was living in India, I also did a weekend in Nepal with my Nepali friend. And that was amazing to like stay with her and with her family and to see everything. Like from her perspective, it was a very different, most of my friends who go to Nepal do the trekking or they do backpacking. But for me, it was like much more of a personal visit. And, I remember seeing the Kumari, which was a really spiritual experience for me. And at this time, I was still just like discovering my own spirituality. I wasn't doing anything like specific. Then, when we were living in Venezuela for Trail of Seeds, we traveled, to Brazil, but also Kelsey Forbes and I, one of my friends, we went to Guyana, to this town in the south called Lethem, which was crazy. It is the only border that I never got a stamp or anything because I guess maybe in Europe, they're open borders. I don't think this is actually an open border between Brazil and Guyana, but there's nobody at the border, so we just like crossed it. We think we got there after it closed and the guy just left, and then we stayed a couple days and then went back. And then on my way from Venezuela back to New York, I stopped in Trinidad and I stayed with one of my best friend's moms there. And that was amazing because I always have loved like Trinidadian culture and the food, and I'd always like seen it from afar and like danced to the soca music, but to actually be in Trinidad for the first time was this epic experience. The second thing, in addition to all this travel that I did, was the professional growth that I had. So, the major part was Trail of Seeds and like really building that out and spending the year thinking about how do we take the successes from Tanzania and bring that into a bigger project. And we really like went hard at looking into what is our process, how can we help? And I love what we did for Trail of Seeds in that year. I wish we would continue it. Like Shannon, if you're watching, we have to do another Trail of Seeds project. I was also in Tel Aviv working for an NGO that was helping people who suffered from PTSD from the conflict on both sides. And what's funny is at the time I was suffering from PTSD and I was having symptoms of it, but I didn't even realize at that time. That came a little bit later. I actually never made that connection until right now when I was talking about it, which is interesting to think about. I was also working for this like educational NGO where I actually got to help like 2 young Tanzanian immigrants. And that was really exciting because I could speak a little bit of Swahili at the time to them. But the major part of like the professional growth that I had that year was I got into consulting. So the reason I got into consulting was actually because of my interest in economic development. And I had heard about this company called Dalberg. They're like the #1 development only consulting firm. I've been obsessed with them for years. I've been like emailing all of their partners and everything, trying to get like access to it. And the summer before I was able to meet a team in Tanzania and that was amazing, but that's what I did in India. And so just like preparing for the consulting interview and like the case studies and like all of my friends in Israel helping me to do that. And then when I was, got the job for that summer, that was amazing to be working for one of the best consulting firms. And that ended up being my career later on. I also in Abu Dhabi, I worked 3 months with another consulting firm, Booz Allen Hamilton. I started their internship process. I was their first ever intern in Abu Dhabi. And so that was really exciting. Now there's still an internship program with NYU Abu Dhabi. And so to have been the first and have set that up is like, I'm really proud of. And yeah, so then I like transitioned into that, later the next year as my full career, which you'll see in the next video. But when I was 21, it was really the start of me as a consultant, which I didn't think is like the path that I would like take from studying economic development into being a strategy consultant. But it was a really natural flow to try and like solve some of the world's biggest problems. And the final thing that happened in that year, which was great, was the beginning to my relationship with Kelly, who has been in a couple of videos, my now ex-girlfriend. That was our first time that we met, and we started to kind of date. And that, as you guys may see in the coming videos, has been a part of my life in a way, or was a part of my life for the following like 8 years in different formats. In total, only like a couple years, but across 8. So that also started then. So the beginning to my career, the beginning to living abroad, and the beginning to this relationship that's probably like my most serious relationship I ever had, all happened in my 21st year. So quite an epic year. Again, amazing to like look back at it, because when I sat down to think, let's think about what happened in that year, I totally forgot about everything that had happened, and I'm just amazed at what I was able to accomplish in that year and how much of a foundation it set for the rest of my life. So again, I know these videos are really mostly for me, for a few of you guys who are really interested in the whole story. So thank you for watching if you are, and then I hope everybody has a great day. I am very late to work and the kittens are going crazy, so I am going to go and feed them and go get to work.